Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it may be to you right now.
Pleasure to have Mr. Peter Meltzer, the founder of Surat Thani International School, as the first guest. So, Mr. Peter, first of all, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to interview you. And now I will begin a brief introduction. Yes, now I'll begin a brief introduction of Mr. Peter. Mr. Peter is the founder of Surat Thani International School and the Super English Language School. So he is the founder and he has managed the school. He has, built it from scratch and managed it for the past few years. And currently he stays in the background overseeing all the operations. Mr. Peter's, journey with teaching began many years ago when he was in university. In one of his experiences, he had to teach Bosnian refugees English. And he distinctly told us how it was such a transformative experience to, sit on the kitchen table and teach them. So it's been a long time since then. And Mr. Peter has come up with many initiatives. He first began the Super English Language School with his wife in 2004. And through the gradual but very rewarding journey, he managed a lot of things. He was actually a one-man army. And then in 2014, he founded Surat Thani International School, which was a result of homeschooling his son. So what began as a small group of 4 Western teachers, 4 Thai teachers, and 24 students, 8 years later has now progressed to 21 Western teachers, 24 Thai teachers, and 270 students. So I'm sure it's been an incredible journey. So welcome again. And would you like to say anything about yourself?
I'm happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me. Thank you for that introduction. The description of a one-man army is, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, when I started Super English, I remember the first little while there, it was just me, and but quickly I found some really great people that came on board and were incredibly important to the development of the school. Super English is still running, not so much as a language school now, but we hire Western teachers to go into the Thai school and teach. So we have a team of 11 amazing teachers that are full-time in a Thai school. And yeah, same with Surat Thani International School. That grew out of homeschool that I was doing for my son, and it was just me and him, and then a couple other kids came, and then a couple more, and then their younger siblings came, and it just kind of kept growing. So yeah, we decided to open up the only international school here in Surat Thani. We're the only international school in about a 3-hour radius. So it's been quite a journey.
Yes.
Yeah, so yes, and again, thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Okay, so now we will begin with the question and answer session. The theme for the first podcast and review is, hiring processes in school, and we would be very grateful for your insight on this. So to my first question, a lot of us do know that, hiring processes have a great depth to it, and there's a lot that goes into it, but not many people know the nitty-gritty of it. And sometimes people take it for granted. So do you think that hiring is really an art? And, would you please provide some insights on it?
Sure. I mean, it depends on how you define art, right? It's definitely a skill that the more you practice it, the better you become at it. But I would define it as an art because there are some people that are really good at it, and the more they practice, the better they become. And some people just kind of have a natural gift for being able to go through the hiring process on the school side of things. It's, as you said, there's a lot of smaller components to it that are very often overlooked. And the people who can kind of use their skills in such a way to make the hiring process such a crucial component of what a school does, they're paying attention to all those little parts, and that is something that can really give a school, a momentum, a drive and again, be a very kind of transformative element of a school. But again, it doesn't have to necessarily be interpreted as an art. It is something that you can do, but those who are good at it kind of have their own take on it. They approach it in their own way, and they develop maybe more unique processes that really kind of define them as a school and as individuals. So hope that answers that question.
Yes, of course. It all boils down to how somebody handles the process. So I wanted to ask you that you have been the founder of a school and you've played a very pivotal role in how it is today. And I'm sure that you must have noticed, certain trends that have been changing in hiring processes, through the years. So are there any particular changes that you noticed, which you liked or disliked, and which you would like to point out?
Well, I mean, certainly with technology and how easy things have become to communicate with people. I started hiring teachers back in 2004 with Super English, and I had to go to an internet cafe when I had time, and I had to post the ads and wait for the email replies and then reply back, and then find special time where I could like set aside Skype. And now it's immediate, it's fast, it's so much easier. Zoom has helped things a lot.
Yes.
So it's great that things have become much more fluid and smooth, and that certainly helps the whole process. That would be my main kind of my favorite part of it, because I mean, it always takes a long time. The hiring process can take anywhere, from 2 weeks to 6 months, depending on how quickly, you get those quality applicants that you're looking for. And, just to have the ease of kind of constant connection has made it a much more interactive process in that sense.
Of course, that's great. Technology really is a blessing for us in these times. And I wanted to ask, during the pandemic, it was a very sudden change for schools, especially we shifted from offline mode to online mode, and there was a lot that changed. And, there's been a lot of talk about how, the mental and emotional health of teachers has been ignored for all these years. So even during the hiring process, did the pandemic bring about a sudden shift, which you may not have noticed in all these years, or, is it more or less the same?
I mean, of course, the pandemic has had a huge impact on how we have to prepare teachers and talk with teachers, and because part of the hiring process is explaining things and making sure that everything's clear. I mean, people are signing up to travel to the other side of the world typically, and so you want to try and put as much information in their hands as possible, and so they can kind of know what they're signing up for. And with the pandemic, things were shifting so frequently. Quarantine is a week, quarantine is 2 weeks, you need this paper, you need that paper. And that just really created an enormous amount of hurdles and obstacles that teachers had to overcome in order to get here. And eventually it evened out, but particularly at the beginning, I had completed the hiring for Super English. I think it was maybe 8 or 9 teachers for that time, and I had completed all the hiring for Surat Thani International School, which was another, I don't know, also again 8 or 9 teachers I think at that time, and pretty much all of them backed out. And it was, so eventually a few of them showed up several months later, but this was kind of towards the beginning of the pandemic, and everything just kind of flatlined. It was rough, and you give it some time, you reset, and kind of now we're Thailand is still very much in the middle of the pandemic, but there's some light at the end of the tunnel, I think.
Definitely. I guess it was a very big learning process at the end of the day.
Yes. And there, again, a lot of challenges, and those challenges are still being placed in front of the school in terms of, getting teachers here and getting them through the quarantine, and
Of course.
and then also on the other side, reopening schools and fulfilling all the requirements that are needed to do that. So there's a lot of different components that schools now suddenly have to deal with that are brand new, and everyone adjusts, but it takes some time.
Of course, it does, definitely. Mr. Peter, you had earlier mentioned that technology really made the process of hiring, much more easier and interactive, and it basically lifted a big burden off your head. So as of now, we all know how important technology is. We are really reliant on it. So when schools are hiring teachers, are there certain roles or skill sets, teachers should, possess that would make them, a stronger candidate at this point of time, especially pertaining to, the digital era?
That's a good question. I mean, schools, international schools, at least for the most part, and even the Thai schools here, I think most of them at this point have some type of technology director, someone who's managing all of the different tech aspects of the school. And there's a lot at this point, all the different the learning platforms, the student information systems, the different apps that the kids can have access to, the devices that the students are bringing into school, and to make sure that they're not accessing things that they shouldn't be accessing. So I think it's important for any teacher to have, a fairly good understanding of how to engage with apps. And the more that a teacher is able to know how to utilize the app for the benefit of the students, the better. So, a good example of that would be Seesaw. Now with Seesaw, you can just kind of do the basics with posting images and video, which we've done, or which we did during the pandemic. You can go much deeper into Seesaw, and you can really utilize that program a great deal to post activities and so on and so forth. But you really need to have a good understanding of how to utilize that app.
Of course.
And so, we have teachers of different skill levels that know how to do that, and they all help each other. But, the ones that really understand the app, those are the ones that kind of can forge ahead quickly.
Of course, definitely. Okay. So as you mentioned earlier, during the pandemic, when everything was shifted online, you had to hire a few teachers for Super English and also Surat Thani. And like you said, a few of them did back out. So I wanted to ask that, during the entire pandemic, especially, when the waves were at their peaks, was there a problem of, understaffing in your school or even in other schools generally? And, how did you cope with that?
Yes, we were particularly at the international school. We were at about 50% staff. Luckily I had some really amazing teachers, and we came up with a schedule where everyone was basically teaching double. I was there teaching as well. Everyone was teaching, one class 3 hours in the morning and another class 3 hours in the afternoon. And that was every day. It was intense, and tiring.
I'm sure.
But, it's, again, I think a lot of it depends on the people, and those teachers were just incredible. And I can't remember them complaining once. They were, so we had fun. We had a great time together.
Okay.
But it was tiring, and it didn't last. Eventually we found other people, and we were able to alleviate those burdens. But this first month and a half, about that time.
Of course. So at this point of time, when we are learning to live with the pandemic, do you think schools are better equipped to handle such situations? And do you feel like the storm has passed and it's a bit calm right now, or is it still a bit finicky?
I think it's passing. I think things will balance out. There are still pockets or possibilities where things could deteriorate a little bit further. But we hope for the best, and I think that's what will happen. I don't expect, it would essentially be another, like a mutant variant that was even worse than the Delta variant, right? And just pull everyone back. And so let's not even talk about that. Just leave that one alone.
Yes.
Yeah, there are still hurdles that teachers have to overcome in order to get here. But like I said, people have done it. It is possible. Quarantine isn't great. No one really enjoys it, but you do it and you get through it, and then you're here, and then usually people have a really great time.
Of course, I'm sure. So in the future, are there any changes you would want to see or, personally implement in hiring processes and in the way schools function?
I would really like to see an acceptance on we're talking about the parents, but it's kind of the broader culture and the broader cultural expectations. So I would really like to see an acceptance from the broader culture on diversity within the schools.
Definitely.
I'd really like to be able to move in the direction of being able to hire people that aren't only from, America, Canada, England, right? I'd really like to see, like I said, an acceptance of being able to bring in teachers from India, from the Philippines, from Bangladesh, all over the world. It would really benefit everyone, I think. And it would also make hiring much easier, because there are some fantastic people who've applied. And sometimes, we can't do it because we know that, we're going to face way too many problems from the parents. We've tried it a few times. And it puts an enormous amount of pressure on that person, because at some point they have to deal directly with the parents, and they have to deal with this constant questioning about their English ability and their teaching skill and blah blah. And it's demoralizing for them, and it's unfair. And so, like I said, I hope that there will be a much broader understanding of the benefits of diversity, and having particularly an international school that can represent a much more worldly composition.
Of course. And I think that's really a great initiative, especially, not only in the educational industry, throughout the world in all the fields, people are increasingly talking about having diversity on all levels, be it the corporate level or any level. So I think that's a great initiative, and I really hope that it works out in wonders for you and Surat Thani. And as we come to the last question, it's a very special question, and it's a bit personal. So you are an American, and you shifted to Thailand many years ago. I'm sure that there were, cultural shocks, and you must have had a bit of a roller coaster in adapting to the culture, the teaching, the language, and everything. And there are many teachers like you who over the years travel to different countries. So, if you had to give any advice or any tips to such teachers, aspiring teachers, what would you say to them?
I would say first, if you're thinking about coming to teach abroad, I heartily recommend it. Moving to a different country, experiencing a different culture, it's enormously expanding in terms of your own horizons and in terms of your own perspectives. So that's the first thing, is just do it. Leave your comfort zone.
Yes.
Come to a different place, experience something very, very different. And when you get to that place, accept it for what it is. Don't try to change it. Don't try to impose kind of the expectations and the values and the cultural norms that you had in your own country on this new place. Allow the place to be what it is, and don't have those types of expectations that everything is going to be as accessible and as easy and as convenient as it was in your own country. You can get to that point, but it takes a while. I mean, I always tell people, okay, you're rebuilding your life and you're figuring out how to do all these things again for the first time. And that is very, very challenging, but it's also very, very rewarding. And it really kind of allows you to understand yourself and build yourself up in a very different way. Yeah, I mean, culture shock affects people in very different ways, and it affects people at different times. I mean, typically for most teachers, it's after about 2 months, somewhere between the second and the fourth month, it can hit people pretty hard, homesickness and like that. For other people, it can be a little while longer. I didn't have any culture shock until I think my 6th year in Thailand. But for me, Thailand felt so comfortable right away, and it's such a wonderful place that it's hard to not just fall in love with it, right? And yeah, I mean, again, there's so many wonderful opportunities for people who want to teach and for people who want to be involved in education, and not to feel like you have to do it only in your own country. I mean, my goodness, international school jobs those are good jobs. Those are those are well paying and a lot of benefits, and there's a lot that you can accomplish there, a lot of great travel. And for the other side, within language schools that work within local schools, I mean, you have wonderful, really strong cultural experiences. I mean, at Super English, we have teachers who've been there for 5 or 6 years because they love the Thai school so much. They love the culture there so much, and the kids, and it's just it's apples and oranges, really, like within the kind of the local school system and the international school system is very, very different. And so, for people who don't want to take that deep dive into an international school where, okay, there's more pressure, there are more expectations and things like that, you can kind of find your footing by going through and working in a more local school. So there's tons of options and so many varieties. The real thing that you want to do is try to do a little bit of research beforehand, try to really check to make sure that the school that you're going to, they're going to take care of you, they're going to help you process the visa or process it for you. You're going to get paid on time, because these are kind of the building blocks of being able to move to that country and then being secure in that country. Of course. You don't want to end up in a situation where the school hasn't paid you for 3 months and you don't know where your passport is, and these things happen. And so you really want to make sure that do your due diligence, do your research, and make sure that you're going to go to a place where, okay, like as a new person, kind of new to everything, new job, new culture, new language, new, at least in Thailand and in America, new side of the street to drive on. There's so many things, and it can be so overwhelming that you don't want to have to worry about kind of the basics. And so that's my advice. But overall, the advice is do it.
Do it. Go for it. Yes. Okay, that's great. I'm sure this will motivate a lot of people who are, not sure of how to go about this. So we have come to the end of our interview, and thank you so much once again for giving me an opportunity to interview you. I think, from what I've heard, I really, I salute you and all your teachers, because the pandemic has been really horrible and it has taken a toll on everybody. And even personally speaking, I've seen teachers who have gone the mile to make us, learn, to make us feel better, even while they're ignoring their own mental health and everything. So kudos to you, kudos to all of your staff and teachers at Surat Thani and Super English. And thank you so much for coming with SchooPed. Is there
Thank you.
anything you would like to say? Or
No, I completely agree with you. I mean, the teachers have not just here, but worldwide have been working so hard during this time, and it's been an incredible amount. What I usually say, because I've done it online teaching, is it's about 5 times the work of teaching in the classroom. It's about 10 times less fun, and usually you get about 10 times less efficiency from what you're doing because you're not face to face with the kids. So it's a lot more work, it's a lot less fun, and you can accomplish a lot less. And so all of that together is it's a very, very challenging thing. And, you know, the teachers during this time have just been amazing because they've stuck with it and they've kept going and they figured out how to make it efficient and how to make it work. And, you know, like you said, often kind of sacrificing their own kind of mental well-being in the process, and just really kind of accepting all of those pressures and making the best of it, and ultimately focusing on the students and really kind of making it as good an educational experience it can be with online learning. And I've seen some amazing things from teachers. There's some wonderful creativity and just that can-do spirit.
yes,
It's been
definitely.
really impressive.
So thank you very much once again. And to all our viewers, we hope you enjoyed the first in our series of Online Coffee with Educators. Please stay tuned for the upcoming episodes. We will have a lot more amazing, talented people like Mr. Peter talking with us and giving us more insights on, you know, the educational industry. So thank you again, Mr. Peter. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.